What's up, all you cool cats and kittens? This is the Friendlies podcast, coming to you live from the device you're listening on. I'm Jack Peglow, and with me is my best friend Rob Wong. Rob, how are you doing tonight?
Howdy, y'all. How y'all
you
doing?
went for it. You went for it.
I went for it. If you send me that video, I gotta do it. It's got to be done. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll put it in the info of the podcast, so you can go and watch the video. But probably one of the just like the cutest sounding like Southern old grandpas.
He's like a legit actor.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's like an American Horror Story.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it just seems like just a real friendly, Southern accent.
I mean, that's what he is.
Which is great.
For sure.
Which is absolutely amazing. Can't go wrong with that. But howdy, y'all.
How y'all doing?
What y'all doing?
Not screwing, because we're recording a podcast.
Definitely. But, on a weirder, sadder side note, it's RIP to arguably one of my first grandpa actors that I watched growing up, who just passed away.
Damn, you went way sad quick.
I did. But I feel like I'm not recording any other podcast this week, and I feel like he deserves a shout out because he was arguably one of the first grandpa actors I watched on TV. Dude, the beginning of this podcast is like the podcast version of the beginning of The Last of Us. It is. It looks like it's going to be a pretty fun one, and then it just turns on you. But R.I.P. to Jerry Stiller, man. I watched a lot of the 70s show on the American Forces Network in Korea.
That sounds like it should be a superhero thing. But the shittiest team to ever exist, the American Forces.
Yeah, the American Forces Network, where we had Monday Night Football on Tuesday nights. But yeah,
love it.
But yeah, just RIP to the dude. Definitely, arguably one of the funniest older actors, comedic actors that I touched. So yeah, but I needed to do it. There's no other podcast that I'm recording that's even close to touching this subject. When we talk about games and we talk about movies and whatnot. So yeah, this is definitely the closest one.
Give the man his due. I'm all for it.
Yeah, but we can pivot.
Because normally what we do is talk about video games.
We do.
And that's what we're going to do from now on, I promise.
Yep. All right. So we move on. Where do we go?
We might as well hit him with a quick little recap of what went on this week. I wouldn't say not as eventful as last week, but there's still some nuggets in here. It's a lot of announcements of things yet to come.
I mean, from people that can't see our screen right now, we do our rundowns on Google Docs and we share it in this folder, and this week's is 11 pages long. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of one-liner quick nuggets. But let's just dive in. Hit me with it.
We'll kick it off with the announcement of Night City Wire, which, of course, everyone knows is the name of Cyberpunk's apparent showcase of something. Literally, they just said, this is what it's called and this is when it's happening. That's all we know.
I'm still confused. Just off of this, just a general gaming thing is for a lot of these big games that are coming out, right? Whether it's the Cyberpunks or the Last of Us's, whatever may be announced for the rest of or at the end of the year that we have no idea what it could be. But if you're the marketing team for these types of games, how do you plan out key announcement dates without things like E3 or PlayStation hasn't done a state of play or what's yeah, is it a state of play?
Mhm.
They haven't done a state of play in however many months. Xbox just did their thing, but I do wonder like what the format is, and if this is something that they were already planning altogether, or if this is something that coronavirus and E3 being canceled and all of those shows being canceled, like just threw a wrench, and they had to kind of throw this type of thing together to kind of get more news on their game out.
I'm sure some of this had already probably been finished or was being worked on before everyone went remote. They just probably shifted a bit because, I mean, even before E3 was canceled, they were working on a trailer that would be streamed.
Yeah.
And the gameplay that they would have shown at E3 would have been streamed. So all that really changes is you don't have some dork in a shirt standing next to Keanu Reeves playing the game.
Well, why couldn't have been Keanu actually demoing the game for
Because he's trash and we know it.
us?
You don't let the talent that you paid to go up on stage and talk about the game actually play the game, because they're not good. They're not going to be good.
That's true. Yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you think of this? Like, are you expecting anything like big from?
I mean, I think this will be what would have been their E3 presentation. So I'm assuming we see some more gameplay, because we really have not seen a ton of that yet.
Yeah.
Since it's Night City Wire, I assume it's going to be formatted as like some kind of news bulletin and cover a little bit more of the story, because that's something we don't know a ton about. So it'll probably give us like some little snippets of things going on in the city. And then in that, we'll see some gameplay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. And I'm actually thinking that this isn't just going to be like a one-time deal. I kind of feel like this is going to be something that they do.
I mean, that's definitely, whether it is a one-time deal or not, they left the door open for themselves, which was smart.
Yeah. Very, very smart marketing.
They're good at that.
Well, speaking of something that does good marketing, the Summer Games Fest is gearing up to be a thing that could be the next like big marketing platform for all of these games, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the answer to one of those questions you asked a second ago, which is, how are all these companies deciding when to do all of this? It's Jeff Keighley. He's scheduling them.
He's become like the pseudo like big brother of all gaming, right? Like
Papa Jeff.
yeah, like everything like goes, every like big announcement now basically runs the rim. Like if you're like an indie, you could probably get like, you know, more exposure just going through Jeff than to, you know, figure out your own way or latching on to either a Nintendo or a PlayStation or a Sony. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. When would we not be excited for more Cyberpunk news? Because that's arguably, well, yeah, arguably
it's at the tippity top of my potential game of the year list already. I mean,
yeah, I mean the game's not even out, but I mean most people are pegging this and Last of Us 2 definitely going to be on the at least the mentioned list.
Cyberpunk just, it scratches so many of my specific personal itches, like open world where I can explore and like play with a lot of systems that develop in the city, but also Cyberpunk happens to be like a genre I really enjoy reading. Like a lot of books that I read are set in that. I can't do too many in a row, obviously, because you need a little break, but Neuromancer is one of my favorite books of all time. That's like the invention of the cyberpunk genre.
Yeah, I mean, this is like if you watch like sci-fi movies, like Blade Runner, the Judge Dredd feel, like it's pretty much in that vein.
Dredd is low-key a banger, by the way.
I love that movie, the Sylvester Stallone one, not the Carl Urban new one.
No, the new one is a banger.
I like the new one too, but I still like Sylvester Stallone. Like, just I don't know what it is about Sylvester Stallone action movies. They just have a special place in my heart.
Well, this is actually a good point to transition into our next bit of Summer Games Fest news, because it's not Judge Dredd, but he is in that sort of, I feel like, pantheon. There's a group of, I wouldn't call them heroes, but characters that all sort of exist as the same sort of thing, and that's Dread, I feel, is one of them, Terminator, and RoboCop. They're all sort of in that same zone. And the reason I say that this is a great transition is because RoboCop is coming to Mortal Kombat 11.
I thought you were going to tell me Sylvester Stallone was going to come to Mortal Kombat.
No, but literally the original actor who played RoboCop is doing the voice.
Yeah, which is
awesome.
Absolutely awesome. The original RoboCop series, arguably like just one of the like, it's just a childhood favorite of mine. I remember watching the first one with my dad on, I believe it was on VHS. I think I still might have that VHS too. So, oh man, the memories. But yeah, I mean, just hearing his voice on the screen, like, you know, when it does like the character intros, it's just gonna be so much fun to watch and to reminisce. Yeah,
and he looks to be pretty decent.
Yeah, they did a very good character model of him, and it doesn't look like they modernized him too much. It kind of looks like they just took the original RoboCop and then they just put him like into this engine, but they didn't really tweak with how he looked.
And funny enough, speaking of the Terminator, he is already in Mortal Kombat 11, so now RoboCop can fight Terminator.
If that's one of your dreams growing up as a kid and like arguments that you had with friends of who would win in a fight, Terminator or RoboCop, you can actually make that happen now.
To give some context, Mortal Kombat announced that they would be adding a huge story expansion, which for a fighting game, you're probably like, what does that even mean? But Mortal Kombat actually has like legitimately a lot of lore.
Yep.
I'm not super familiar with it, but like it's deep. I mean, they have movies, man.
Yeah, and I remember I owned that movie. I still have that movie and the Street Fighter movie. So yes, I totally get what you're coming from. Yeah, and the lore's like actually,
it's interesting.
That's the best word to describe it. It's very interesting. Like for me, the most interesting part about Mortal Kombat lore is that like chemistry between Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and oh geez, who's the third one? With the mask. There's three guys with the mask.
You can do it. Come on.
I can't get the third one. That's the main one that most everyone plays as. Oh yeah, I can't. It's off. Who is it? Tell me who it is, Jack.
I mean, Scorpion is the main one.
It's Scorpion, Sub-Zero. Is it the green one that I'm missing?
Yeah.
Oh geez, yeah, I don't remember who the green one is.
I don't want to spoil. It'll come to you.
Okay.
And then you'll feel very accomplished. But anyway,
at some point during this podcast, I'm going to just yell out his name.
Scream a name. Yeah. RoboCop isn't the only character coming in this expansion. Two former characters who haven't been in the past few games are returning, and it's Shiva and Fujin, which is dope. Shiva, for the people who don't recognize, probably even if you don't recognize the name, would recognize what her character looks like because she's a big four-armed, like, orc ogre looking creature. But she's sort of, I want to say, she's kind of transcended Mortal Kombat a little bit. Like you see her a lot of places that aren't Mortal Kombat. And then Fujin is also coming back, who hasn't been in the game since the PlayStation 2. So people are hyped about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember who those two characters are, but I mean, if it's something that helps make
Google an
bigger,
image of Shiva right now.
Am I going to recognize it right away?
Yeah, you will.
Shiva, Mortal Kombat. Let's see. Images. Oh, yep, I do remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I do remember. Wow, okay, yeah, they're bringing back an old school one.
Right. Well, because that's the premise of this story expansion, is they're like going back in time.
That always works.
Which is actually sort of copying. That's kind of the whole bit that Soul Calibur did with their latest game too.
Maybe that's the craze in fighting games to bring back their old heroes, kind of like what they saw what Nintendo did with Smash Ultimate and brought back every single fighter. So now they're like, all right.
Yeah, but now they're trying to do it while also
maintaining a story.
Right.
I mean, whatever works. I'm sure the community around Mortal Kombat is super excited.
And I respect the effort, but none of them will ever beat the grandmaster of storytelling that is Subspace Emissary.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, it
a
is.
masterclass.
It is. It definitely is.
But moving right along, more announcements came out this week. After Mortal Kombat, we saw that. How do you pronounce? So everybody pronounces this company's name differently. Ubisoft or Ubisoft? Which one are you?
I'm a Ubisoft guy,
I feel like I am too. I feel like I lean Ubisoft.
but they're Canadian, like they're French Canadian, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder what the French pronunciation of Ubisoft would be.
I think it probably depends on what province you're from.
Okay, well then we'll never get a clear answer on this.
We won't. But they announced a big, whatever you want to call it. I'm so tentative to call anything showcase now after Xbox's gameplay showcase, air quotes. But they're holding some sort of showcase on July 12th. It'll be called Ubisoft or Ubisoft Forward, and it'll be a fully digital showcase with exclusive game news, reveals, and more.
I
So
hope
there you go.
it's more than the Xbox One. Like,
So we'll get into that later, but yeah, that one, woof.
yeah,
That was they did not frame that well.
yeah. They said game. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm gonna save my. I'm gonna save my my anger and frustration of
Mhm.
watching that when
Mhm.
we get to that section.
Well, let's get there quick. So more announcements. PGA Tour 2K.
Oof.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, if I have to pay 99 cents for every mulligan I want to take in an online game, then this is the perfect game for that. But I mean, like, to be real, 2K makes great sports games. You've seen how they do with the NBA series. If they're going this PGA route and they're actually going to invest in it, it can't be a one-off because the first iteration of this is not going to be amazing, but it'll get better. So
If they have the official PGA license, they have it in the title. I doubt it's a one-off.
yeah, which is even better because that means that they're going to invest in it and listen to the community and see how it gets better. I mean, the golf games are just some games, some of the easiest games to like just get into. But
I used to play so much Tiger Woods PGA Tour.
exactly, but you know exactly what I'm talking about then because the games are easy to get into, but there's so many intricate things about the gameplay that you can dive deep into like getting better at it, just like the NBA games. You know,
Right.
so if they decide to go that route and keep the same model that they've done with their NBA games, I think they have a really good like community hit on their hands.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour is actually one of the few games that my brother and I would play with our dad because he has worked in the golf industry his whole life, and being able to go into that game and like actually play all of these iconic courses, which they actually, even back when this was just on the Xbox 360, the PS3, I mean, those courses were very meticulously rendered and incredibly accurate.
Yeah, that they were.
So yeah, that game holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I mean,
My dad actually called me at some point this week and was like, "All right, you're gonna have to tell me what I need to buy to play this game."
I mean, if your dad's being sold on it too, then you know the golf community is going to just buy like straight into this. Like I already have friends who haven't bought. I mean, I guess it's the same boat as your dad. Like I have a friend who played golf in high school and college, and he texted me about this game too, and he hasn't bought a console since the PlayStation 2. So this is going to be his first console in a while that he's going to get in order to play this game.
Yeah, man, golf sells when it's a video game.
Yeah, imagine like being able to run around like a clubhouse or like run around with like the golf carts like they do in NBA 2K like on in the playground.
I honestly think that will be a thing because golf fashion is an absolute huge part of that industry.
It's so simple because you can set up the clubhouse, you can have your like driving range and your putting range or your putting greens out there, and you can like go on with your friends and just do like quick little challenges or like, you know, ask people if they want to, you know, hit 18.
Yeah, looking at the way the 2K handles their NBA games, exactly. I mean, yeah, what brand of clubs you have in your bag, what brand you're wearing on your hat, all of that is probably going to be
big
feature.
Big time. And the cool thing is they're probably going to get a crap ton of money because of sponsorships. Because you actually have sponsorships
Mhm.
in PGA versus like in the NBA. So you're gonna see like the Ricky Fowler with all of his
Puma.
Puma stuff, but then also like you see all of like the Koreans that play on the PGA Tour that have like like their hats from like either Nike or Adidas or whatnot, but then on the side like you see like the little like Korean company ads like Samsung or whatever it may be. So yeah, they're gonna get so much money like buying all those rights, and so
Mhm.
many people, so many companies are gonna want in. Like they're gonna have a crap ton of money to work with and develop this game with. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Yep, you and me both.
I'm also excited because Halo 2 is back, baby.
Finally,
God, I
finally.
played so much Halo 2. I played a ton of. I played the most Halo 3, but ooh, I put a lot of hours in Halo 2.
Yeah, Halo 2. Yeah, I mean Halo 2 just has a special place in my heart just because they basically made Halo 1 but made it like grander and bigger, and you
Mm-hmm.
were just like in your jaw just dropped while you were playing that game because you already knew like what Halo brought, and then because I don't think Bungie knew that they had this big of a hit on their hands, and then they brought in Halo 2 with all of the success from Halo 1, and oh man,
Have you heard of the stories of the last players of Halo 2 who stayed in games until their servers literally shut off?
that's I have not, but that is an epic story. Like that's like going down with the ship. Epic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this happens in a lot of games, but the Halo ones were especially popular because of how big the game was.
Yeah. I just remember so many hours of like late night games of like friends coming over and playing, multiplayer or running the co-op. Um, man, so much fun.
And staying right in that time period of throwbacks, apparently we're getting a remaster of the Mass Effect trilogy.
Holla!
Now this is just a tease from Jeff Grubb from VentureBeat, but he is usually pretty good with this stuff. And he kind of just threw it in at the end of a wrap up about EA stuff. He said, "Oh yeah, that remaster they're working on, it's the Mass Effect trilogy."
So tell me, have you played the trilogy?
Yeah,
Did you like the trilogy?
I did. I didn't play 4,
Yeah,
but I played the original trilogy.
it was 4 Andromeda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the crap one that no one played. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if they're bringing back the trilogy in full HD, like, oh man, I could dive myself back into 1 and 2 so badly. 3 was a bit weird. I wish they would maybe fix the ending a little bit, but other than that, like the gameplay in
If
that,
it's a remaster, there's room.
there is room. There is room. But yeah, I could go back and replay 1 and 2. Those were so much fun. So much fun.
Always Renegade.
Always Renegade. I always did 2 runs of those games.
Yeah, you have
You
to.
got to do like full Renegade and then full like what's the other side of this? I can't remember, but it's the light one. But like the being the super nice dude. Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
I think one of our friends Dallas is a big fan of this one too, so he's definitely gonna be stoked for this.
Paragon, that's it.
Yes, Paragon. It was Paragon and Renegade. Yep.
Yeah, that's really all that we have to go on right now is just him throwing that in at the end of an article. You tease, Jeff.
I mean, speaking of teases,
You know when or where.
Speaking of teases,
Here it go.
Here we go. The Last of Us 2.
We've been known that it leaked.
Yes.
We already said we're not going. We're sticking to that. We're not. I haven't seen anything, so I couldn't spoil you if I wanted to.
Same here. I've stayed off the Last of Us Reddit for a while now.
But what I have done is I've sort of carefully went through some comments and reading people's reactions who are just sort of reacting in general. They're not talking about specifics. And Rob, you're not going to believe this, but people on the internet are upset.
Color me shocked.
Apparently, folks are not happy with what they've learned about the story. And I have 2 examples of when this has happened before, and I'm going to state both of them, and we can kind of just move on after that, because there's not much else we can do.
Yeah.
This has happened with Avengers Endgame, and this has happened with the final season of Game of Thrones. In both instances, people got plot points that had leaked early, read them, and said, wow, this is going to be trash. One was and one wasn't.
So based on the last year-ish of data points,
basically what I'm saying
got 50-50
is
chance.
Plot points, while important, do still happen within the context of the whole story.
Yeah.
So it's hard to judge based on just black and white plot points.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait and see.
I am. I did watch this trailer. I will go on a limb and say that it doesn't spoil much, nor does it really.
Naughty Dog is usually pretty good about not giving too much away in the trailers.
It didn't give away much. It basically just cemented what you expected from like a very, very basic storyline perspective from the first two trailers that they showed. So you kind of like knew, like, I feel like that's the way they're going, and then they were like, and then this thing,
which probably means that they're not going that way at all. But.
Could be, yeah. But basically, that was like the gist of the trailer, at least for me, was just, oh, okay, yeah. From a general plot perspective, I get why we're heading back into this world. Like, I get why it's not, it wasn't a happy ending at the end, or like there's more trouble occurring, which is why they're sending us back in as Ellie and Joel. So, for me, this was like a perfect, like, yes, this is the perfect appetizer. Like, I am ready for this game. I still don't plan to play this game at night. But yeah, just color me excited, since I'm the only one that's watched that trailer out of the two of us.
Well, the other thing that people are mad about in regards to The Last of Us is the sort of reemergence of this thread that I think was originally brought out last E3, which is that in this game, of course, in every game, devs want to talk about how advanced their new AI is, but in this one, apparently there are dogs that you will run into in certain areas, and if you kill them and their owners find them dead, they will lose it. And there was a press release that was sent out, apparently erroneously, because the director of communications at Naughty Dog said that they never sent this out. But it basically was like, hey, people are going to be upset when you kill their dog. This game doesn't pull any punches, man. We're edgy. We're the monsters.
I mean, it's a game about a world that has zombies. Like,
and even the first game did this too. It's about a world with zombies, yes, but a lot of the themes in the game deal with, one, how people, yes, are the scary part in a world full of zombies. That gets beat over your head in a lot of zombie narratives. But the thing that The Last of Us really tries to do is sort of remind you that choices you make have consequences.
Yep.
And I think that this particular choice, or at least consequence that happens because of a choice that the player can make, is a little heavy-handed and maybe not handled super well? Yeah, I think probably. Speaking as a owner of a new about 7.5-month-old puppy, I hope this doesn't happen often.
I mean, it's like the beginning of John Wick, right?
Yeah,
like that's pretty much what they're saying could happen, is that you could unleash John Wick on yourself.
But and obviously, speaking just from what we have to go on right now, we don't know what it actually looks like in the game. Maybe it's not even that prevalent, or it's not that much, but since they're making such a big deal about it, I feel like they really want you to be like, yeah, man, it's really bad that you that you killed those dogs. And that just, it seems like you were really trying too hard when you were working with this.
Yeah, for me, it's one of, like, even for myself as a dog owner, I think it's just one of those things that sometimes it's just way overblown. Um, that it is just, sometimes you just have to take a step back and just be like, hey, this is just a video game.
Yeah, it's like, I think at some point somebody was like, okay, like, one of the themes that we try to work with in our gameplay is that, like, this world is gruesome and you have to do some tough shit and then you have to deal with the fallout of that. But
Yeah.
there are better ways to do that.
Yeah, which I totally agree. I think it's just finding that fine line between, this is just like a simulation game, or like a, it's a video game, right? It's like it's not our real world, but at the same time understanding that balance of, hey, this type of stuff, like these types of video games, like, has influence over people, and just being able to find that right balance of, like, using things that are uncomfortable for people to push a plot, or like to draw emotional, like, responses,
Right.
versus just putting that shit in there just for the sake of, like, being edgy, right?
I think that's what bothers me the most about this, is that from what we can tell, it seems like it's just bad writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, see, that's one of those things that it's so much harder to be, like, on any side of this argument until the game's actually out and you see it within the perspective and the narrative of the game and how it plays out.
Right.
Because you're going to be able to clearly tell if this was something that was just shoehorned in, or if this was, like, something intricately thought out, that tries to just to make the world a bit more immersive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think basically the people that are over, I basically want to say, for the people that are over judging or overreacting, like, let's just wait until the game is out and we play the game in its form. And if it feels shoehorny, dude, I'm right there with you. And I'm going to be like, this was total bullshit. Like, this didn't need to be in the game. But we just don't know what the full context of how it plays out is.
Right. I've been laughing all week at the people that are basically unknowingly copy and pasting the exact same tweets they wrote about how the Sword and Shield Pokemon games were going to absolutely flop because of the leaks that made them look bad. But replacing Pokemon with Last of Us.
It's pretty much what people
and that first one, yeah, you guys were right. Pokemon did real bad.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the Pokemon
didn't
company.
Sell at all.
It's Nintendo, so you have to expect some faults there.
Anyway, I hope the writing redeems itself.
Yeah, I do as well, and I am an inkling of hope, just because it is Naughty Dog and they do real good with storytelling.
But speaking of good writing,
oof,
and leaks, apparently Xenoblade is starting to leak, so stay safe out there.
I mean, is it really considered a leak if it's a remake of a game?
For people that haven't played it, stay safe out there. So far, apparently the new epilogue hasn't really been leaking yet, but
yeah,
since there is others out there, it's probably only a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, that I totally understand. It's just, yeah. For me, for people that, like, haven't played Xenoblade, they're like, "Oh my god, I got spoiled." I was like, "Did you really get spoiled?" Like,
right.
I mean, that game's been on 2 different consoles up until this point. This is gonna be a 3rd console that it's on, and if you haven't played it, or, like, haven't, like, done your, instead of playing, read through Wikipedia or watch, like, an entire playthrough of it, like,
I wonder if it would even make sense trying to read a Wikipedia recap of a Xenoblade Gears game.
Yeah, that might be.
They're pretty convoluted.
Yeah, at least you can get the very baseline of the plot down and some of, like, the significant little twists. But
they are, like, very extremely Japanese in how big their stories get.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it when we get to the part where we're talking about what we're playing, because I added in a little thing about it.
Well, then let's move on to Season 5 of Apex Legends.
A new character.
New character, new map, and a new mode. They're adding PvE.
It's a matter of time, honestly.
Titanfall. It's back.
Pretty much Titanfall without the robots.
But that was the best part.
Exactly. Titanfall, like when you got your robot like charged up, like your little meter, and then you hit the button and it says Titanfall inbound. It's just such a good feeling. And then the grappling. I'm going on a tangent here, just because I love the multiplayer in Titanfall.
Titanfall's dope. Play Titanfall.
And it wasn't heavily played, and it should have been heavily played.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean,
I've actually been low-key kind of impressed with the storytelling that Apex has started to implement, because the new character is the adult form of a little girl who watched the previous new character kill her parents in front of her.
Yeah, they're doing it's like they're taking little things from all these other like big titles. Basically, like, you know how Overwatch does it with their things and how all the characters are connected, and which
is funny because I always laugh at Overwatch lore, because they started out and they gave people just like a very thin layer of lore, and then the internet filled in so much, and Blizzard was like, thank you, we will take all of this.
Yeah, that's a good one, and they'll take that one. That's a good one, and they'll take that. So yeah, I think you kind of have to do that. I think people won't play these types of games just mindlessly. They need to feel attachment to certain characters, and the best way to do that is to give background information of why these characters play as such, like use these abilities as such, look as such, and you just resonate with some of the stories, and that's probably why you feel more connected. Like, that's the same thing for me. Is like when we play Overwatch, like, I mean, me being Korean American, I naturally gravitate towards playing as Diva, even though I suck as playing as Diva, just because she's Korean. And her like little video of her backstory was like super cool.
Still waiting on that Lucio and Zenyatta lore.
Yeah, who knows when that's coming out. We know more about Echo than we do about Lucio, which is...
It's been 3,000 years.
But yeah, I'm excited that they're adding this stuff to Apex. That user base looked like it was tapering off, and then it came back, and then now it's a pretty solid base.
Mm-hmm.
So doing good stuff.
Last bit of news on the docket here. In an investor's report, Capcom outlined some of their future plans for investments into the esports sector. I'm going to read a quote from their report here. The company sees esports as an integral part of its future growth strategy and is working to consolidate its position in this expanding market with upfront capital allocation and investments in human resources. Capcom plans to found the Esports Academy, tentative name, for training professional players, as well as to establish regional teams and leagues for female players.
Ooh, baby.
It's like they started out and I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And then they just totally flopped the landing.
The reason I said ooh baby is because of just the internet backlash that this is going to receive. Like,
luckily this is so like pie in the sky, far future, that they probably haven't even spent any money on it yet.
Yeah.
I'm assuming and I'm hoping that this comes from a place of someone in a boardroom saying, we want more women to get involved. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And not someone being like, women can't compete with men.
Yeah, I'm going to err on the side just for my own
I want to try to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just hope that that's the intent was the former, not the latter. It's just the wording that's off.
Mm-hmm. Also, how will regional teams work with a fighting game?
Yeah, that's confused. I mean,
how?
I guess you could do like team battles,
but like the game doesn't support that.
Right. I guess I'm thinking of it like, you know, like when you play like tennis in high school, right?
Sure.
You have like a team of 7, but it's like you have singles 1, 2, 3, and then like 2 doubles teams.
But like they already run a Capcom Pro circuit that is structured around individuals.
Yeah, I don't know how they. I don't know what they're
So
thinking.
I don't know what. I mean, obviously, this is far in the future, but I don't know about that, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is also from an investor relations report, which is basically
Sure,
them telling like investors of like, hey,
they're telling basically. Yeah, you're actually right. Sorry to cut you off, but like they are basically adding regional teams because that's the hot button thing with Call of Duty and Overwatch League. So they're like, yeah, that might be something you could invest
yeah.
in.
Yeah. So there, I think there, it's just more of we have plans to do this, but by plans
Mm-hmm.
I mean I talked to a team, and by team I mean I talked to the guy who prepped this PowerPoint, and by that guy doing his research, which basically meant he put this sentence down on a piece of paper. Like I, like I think that's ultimately what I think is probably like on their docket at this point.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of like, ooh, let's find a investor in Seoul to create a Seoul team, and then one in like China, and then one in Europe, and then one in the Americas. Like I don't think it's gotten that far. It's more of a
Right.
what's hot and what aren't we doing that's hot that we could do that could get hot.
What's gonna make you throw that money at us?
Yep. So yeah, I mean, if it happens, I think that's great. More avenues for guys to like chase their dream at being a professional and being paid to do so.
Well, more big time developer
Mhm.
presence in the FGC
Yep.
in a way that's done well, because it's kind of hard. That's something we can get. That's a big topic, but
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, it definitely would be.
But that's all we got, man. We made it through the news.
Woo. Phew.
Now it's time. Hit me with what you've been playing.
I mean, what have I been playing?
Yeah, you do suffer from gaming ADD.
I do, and I'm at this point right now where I'm trying to finish up as many games that I've started over the last like let's say year, tentative 12 months. Okay, just it's an
You finished a big one.
arbitrary date. Yeah, I finally finished Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I was
What was your hour count? Do you know off the top of your
off
head?
the top of my head, it was 80 plus. It was like at 80.
Under
It
100,
was like
huh?
88. I skipped quite a few side quests.
Fair. I mean, there are a lot of them, and some of them aren't worth it.
Yeah, I might go back and do a little bit of it, just because I love the fighting mechanics, and maybe that'll keep me invested in the fighting mechanics up until Xenoblade Chronicles the remaster releases.
So good. They're so good.
Yeah, but I mean, the story was great. The twist at the end of how this game was tied to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was
Mhm.
mind blowing.
Makes that epilogue that's coming real juicy.
Super juicy. Yeah, and I just was sitting there with my like jaw dropped of like, holy shit, like that's how they tied it together. Like,
When you see what the guy looks
yeah,
like,
yeah. That entire sequence. I mean, that
Mhm.
cutscene is super long, right? But it explains.
Mhm.
It basically explains the entire game of like why you're at this point and why like the area you're in looks like the area you're in. Um, yeah, I'm speaking in very ambiguous terms here, and I know Jack is as well because we don't want to spoil anyone just in case they do want to.
folks, if you're curious, simply put 80 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Either that or just go to YouTube and just like watch like if you don't want to put like a
No, play the game.
yeah, I would say play the game, but I'm just saying if you don't want to like actually play the game, but you're still interested in like how the story plays out and why we're so hyped around it, go watch a playthrough. It's epic. It's super great. But yeah, so I finally finished that. I was like,
Not safe for work, though.
yeah, I was starstruck or not starstruck. I was just like shock and awe sitting on my couch like after the game it ended and was rolling credits. And then I'm still finishing up Red Dead Redemption 2. And then of course dabbling in some Valorant. And then I am going to start Control or Persona 5 Royale at some point.
Those are two very different things to start.
Yeah, and I'm leaning towards Control just because I think I've
That's what I was going to suggest.
played too much of a JRPG. I might just want to get into like a super simple.
I was going to say, you need that a little bit of a difference, and Control is a little bit shorter. You'll be able to finish it.
Yeah, and it's like that action, like time stop with like abilities and things like that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna dip into Control, and then probably if I finish that before the end of the month, then I might dip into P5R. But I mean, also Xenoblade. So tough call.
I am still working my way through P5. I'm more than halfway through now. I finished up Kanashiro's Palace, which is the bank.
It's the third one. Yeah. So you're about halfway. Yeah.
I'll get into my thoughts on that real quick. I'm going to hit on the Animal Crossing stuff just because it's easy. Animal Crossing is always going to be Animal Crossing.
Yep.
But the cool little bit that I saw this week is that Mark Jacobs is giving out codes for clothing that you can download and wear.
It's really cool. They're totally like just getting into the craze. And
dude, so many like brands and like Queer Eye ran a thing where you could have them come to your island and spruce it up.
I mean, why not? It's free marketing for you at this point, right?
Totally.
Like you can even put out clothes out there that like you haven't started selling in stores yet, and then people like put it on their Animal Crossing characters, and they want it in real life, and then you're gonna have customers that are gonna want to buy your stuff. So why not?
I also want to give a quick shout out to a Twitter thread that is just so incredibly wholesome. It's from Robert. I'll probably butcher this. Heiret, Heiret. He's one of the members of the localization team that worked on the game, and he talks about what they went through localizing it and how they knew that, like, they joked about how they were writing the next memes for the next couple of years, but they had no idea how it was going to blow up. And it's a good thread. You should go read it.
Yeah, and well, if we're on that route, I have one called I believe it's called Tom Nook and Isabel dances 2.
That's a whole account.
Oh my god. It's Tom and Isabel 2. That's the Twitter handle. And the name is Tom and Isabel Dance 2. And it's just video clip after video clip after video clip of them dancing to certain songs, and they've like done the whole, they like sped up the dance moves or slowed down the dance moves to make sure it's on the right BPM. And some of them they're
doing their little anime. If you go into whatever building that is, registration, resident services in the morning, they're doing that as like a morning exercise, morning workout.
And it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. I love, it's just, as you said, wholesome. I love dipping into this just to like give myself like a little giggle midday.
One of the things that I'll highlight real quick about how wholesome it is he talks about one of the most now infamous lines in the game, which is when you catch a sea bass and it says, "No, wait, it's a C+." When they originally localized that line, it was a C-, but they said you're going to be seeing that line so much, and minus is a bummer and plus is a good vibe. And that's why it was changed to a plus.
I wish every company had meetings like that.
Right?
What a wholesome way to like, like have an end to a conversation, like start to end. Yeah, negative. Yeah.
But if you wade into the replies, grab some tissues because they get deep, they get heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it can't be overstated how much this game has had a positive influence on a lot of people through like these extraordinary times.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can't say more than
that. So yeah, I'm also still playing Persona 5 Royal, and now that I'm about a little bit halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway through the game, my takes have become more refined.
Oh, hit me with them.
So there's good and bad additions. The good is basically everything about the combat. They added more mechanics. They added more interactions with the enemies. I'm still playing on Merciless, so like if I mess up like one thing, I can get totally wiped.
Yeah, you're done.
Which is dope. I really enjoy the layers that get added to the combat when you have, I forget what they call them, like there's some new form of shadow that's like volatile or something, and if you attack it, it will like reflect it, but you can, if you kill it before it can actually attack, it'll like blow up and harm everything else. It feels very much like a tactics game almost, which is dope.
It puts a little urgency into the fights too.
It's urgency, but it's also like you have to be a lot more meticulous.
Yeah.
You can't just like go in, because the game has a function where once your character or the next character you want to control goes up, you can hit R1 and it'll basically suggest an attack that will be effective against something. But if you just kind of do that without thinking, you can run into trouble now.
Okay, so you can't ask Madden your way through this game, is what you're telling me.
You maybe can on lower difficulties, but like I can't.
So not
on Merciless. Got it. The other thing that I've really enjoyed is the two new characters, the new confidants. They're both adding a lot of freshness to the story because they are involved almost immediately. Especially Maruki, the guidance counselor, or the counselor, not guidance counselor, the regular counselor. I've been sort of pleasantly surprised with how well his characters are written, because a lot of characters, most characters in Persona games, stick to their tropes, and he is the only one that sort of subverts it a little bit, because he's the bumbling teacher, but in his bumbling, he actually sort of seems to be very like his bumbling is calculated. Which has been interesting.
Like a quiet genius.
Right.
Okay. I'm excited now.
Well, let me quash that real quick with the bad.
All right, fine.
Now, some of this is good too. They streamlined a lot of the non-combat things. So like your day-to-day stuff, your social leveling, your confident leveling. They made it easier to get those up faster, which is nice. It makes it easier to get all of that done in a single playthrough. The issue is that at some point it sort of becomes so easy that I almost feel like I'm in cruise control.
Yeah. So I guess what you're telling me is you don't have the dilemmas of how you want to spend your time, and
the pressure isn't there. Okay. Yeah. Which is a big part of Persona games.
Yeah.
Like managing your time. Take your time is one of the loading messages in the game.
Yeah. Like figuring out what you want to do that afternoon, like as soon as school's out, is just like one of the biggest like headaches.
Mm-hmm.
Like crap, like I do need to like go level up my guy. I do need to go buy new stuff. And I also need to go get this book, but then I also need to hang out with this person or check in with this person.
Right. Like you need to find the confidence that hanging out with them will also give you like a bonus point in guts. Yeah. So in previous Persona games, you had to like really follow a strict schedule if you wanted to get everything done in a single playthrough. But it seems so far like in this one, you don't have to worry about that so much, which is good for in some ways. But I do sort of miss that pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that maybe not pressure, urgency. Maybe
I think all in all, it's probably good for people who are playing the game for the first time, though.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think for us, it's your second or third or fourth playthrough, I think, then it's like, okay, yeah, it loses a little bit of it.
That's what the thing is. Like, I wonder how much of this cruise control is also just me being very familiar with the game.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that. I think at the same time, I think you probably expected a little bit more of the headache of the urgency because there were more confidants that you had to fit into the schedule.
And there's a lot, not only is there more confidence, but there's more. Like there's a whole new area, there's more activities.
Yeah. So I think you probably wanted the difficulty of that, right? Like to be able to figure that out. But then at the same time, I think they probably planned it more so not for guys who are playing the game again, but for people who are playing the game for the first time.
Totally.
So it kind of sucks.
I get it.
It kind of sucks, but at the same time, you understand why they did it.
Yeah, I get it. I don't have to be happy about it.
Yeah. But okay, all right. Well, that makes it somewhat more enticing. It's actually the bad point that you pointed out actually makes it a good point for me. Like it.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's an extremely personal bad point
for me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to dive back into this game that I already know, like kind of how the story goes. It's just like more things that I want to do in the game, which I love the game, by the way. So to streamline a lot of this, for me to like take it easy and to be able to finish it out quickly. From my perspective, or at least
get to the new section quickly.
But for you, it's like you want the challenge.
I would also caution you to not go too quick because, like I said, the new characters are in the story almost immediately. There's new stuff right off the bat.
Well, I guess I gotta take my time, just like the game tells me to.
Attaboy. Um, rounding out what we're playing, obviously I'm still playing Smash. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. The Chicago scene hosted an items tournament this weekend, which was pretty fun. It's sort of, I mean, I'm still a fan of obviously the main competitive mode. That's what I prefer. But when you're forced to play over Wi-Fi, it's not a bad idea to have some tournaments like this where it's for fun.
Yeah, I mean the mass mayhem that you get with playing with items is.
But it's competitive items, so they have a whole rule set of like what's. So like, there's no Pokeballs, there's no assist trophies, there's no like healing items.
There's no jackpot hammer.
Let me see. Nope, no hammers. No hammers. What else is not there? No cuckoos, no wasps. There's no poisonous mushroom, but there is a regular mushroom.
It's slightly upsetting how much they've restricted some of the.
I mean, yeah, because some of them are just like.
Right. But I totally get why they would do that. I mean, it's for a tournament, right? Even though it's like technically.
Yeah, it's
fun.
still like, it's fun, but they still want it to be a little competitive.
Yeah. Okay, which I get.
It was fun. We should. This actually made me think that maybe we should host a little friendlies tournament of our own at some point if people are interested.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, as long as we say every single item is allowed.
I don't know if I can abide by that, Rob.
Oh, like an absolute battle royale with all items involved. Oh,
I would be willing to play competitive items.
All right. I mean, we're gonna have to, if we're actually gonna do this, we're gonna have to talk this through. I mean, I don't really have a preference either way. But just to make it fun, a little interesting, a little. It's always fun to have like these types of arguments after those games end with those caveats of like, yeah, you wouldn't have won if that item didn't drop for you at that exact time. Just those types of conversations. So maybe.
But listeners, if you're interested, hit us up because I'm always down.
Slide into those DMs.
But that's all I'm playing.
That's all we're all playing. But now we got to get into the actual meat of our podcast.
Round one time.
Fight.
Round one.
It's time to talk about this Xbox thing. So it's not that it was necessarily disappointing in what we've shown. It was that they made this big deal about this being a gameplay showcase. And not only did we really not see that much gameplay, but it was also all third-party stuff.
So to be fair, I think a lot of the stuff that we saw was in-game engine, right? It wasn't like cutscenes for a lot of the games. I'm not going to say for all the games, but for a lot of the games.
Sure.
But it was all with like the HUDs off, like no real like actual long scenes of play, but more so like these little, it's like a vignette of like little tiny cuts from all over the game. So that was,
they were playing fast and loose with the definition of gameplay.
Definitely.
They actually, the Xbox marketing GM, Aaron Greenberg, sort of responded to people being disappointed. He tweeted and he said, "Had we not said anything and just shown May Inside Xbox show like we did last month, I suspect reactions might have been different. Clearly we set some wrong expectations and that's on us. We appreciate all the feedback and can assure you we will take it all in and learn as a team."
Yeah, I mean, I get why he said that, and I actually truly hope that they're actually taking the community's feedback really into their thought process. But at the same time, like, if you work in games and you put out the word gameplay, you should know what expectations and what that means.
Yeah, I mean, they knew what they were doing, but I mean, the joke's on us. They got those eyeballs.
Yeah, ultimately. But they know now they can't pull that stunt ever again. So,
Anyway, let's talk about what we saw.
All right, let's get into it.
I also, just to real quick, I went back and listened to our predictions, which, since this ended up being nowhere near what we thought it was going to be, were mostly wrong. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to a couple of things that we did nail. Rob, You called a couple pretty good ones. You were like, there's going to be a racing game.
Yep. It wasn't the racing game
And
I
there's
thought it was, though.
And there's going to be a sports game.
Yep.
So shout out to you. I think every single one of mine was wrong. My big one, a new first party IP. Real good one. Good one, Jack.
What's the definition of first party with Xbox?
Halo,
It's pretty much Halo, or Gears of War.
which we're apparently probably going to see more of in July. That's when their first party stuff is going to get shown.
Yeah, and there was I'll go over an Xbox tweet that I saw later, but yeah, let's run through some of these games.
So I have them here listed alphabetically.
Ooh.
We'll start with the big one, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It sure is a lot of Viking shit.
I'm into it. I'm totally into it. I love like this type of historical setting. One of the other ones for me that I've always wanted, it just baffles me that they never got into Asian like history culture, and like, you know, whether it be Japan or like China with like the Three Kingdoms, or like it's baffling that they never dipped into that. But
I feel like they're a team that's based in Western society. They probably don't feel familiar enough with it.
yeah, but it'd be so cool if they dipped into that, just because of like the structures and like the setting and how beautiful it is, and the architecture would be so conducive. Like, think like they did such a good job with Sekiro and like the city build and like the verticality of that, right? Like you can easily do that with Assassin's Creed. But I mean, with Valhalla, you know, the raiding aspect of it, like I wonder if there's going to be like a city building element to it where you have to go out and raid places to like bring back supplies for your village, and like attacking, you know, like castles like held by the what's the historical term for it? Like Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah.
Like I do think, and like castle like barraging and just sieging. Like I think that aspect of it's gonna be super cool.
Can't wait for people to get mad about another game where you colonize.
Yeah. In a weird way, this is like the opposite of colonizing, right?
You're colonizing the colonizers.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there was a tweet about this game saying that they're making this game smaller and a little bit shorter because of all the words or the feedback they got from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I don't mind. It's just a matter of what actually that entails, like how much smaller and how much shorter is it.
Yeah, honestly, like world size has never been a thing that I really care about that much. It's about what's in it.
Yeah, the substance. So yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the series. I've played pretty much every single one of them. So actually, I have played every single one of them except for the mobile ones. Yeah,
I always forget that those exist.
Actually, there is one game based in China, and then there's one game based in Russia, I believe. But those are all mobile. And then, yeah, they had the other like Caribbean one. But yeah, I'm excited for this game. I'm down to play it. But once again, no actual gameplay.
Nope. That'll be a trend.
Yeah.
Okay, up next, Bright Memory Infinite, which it's a sci-fi shooter. Really, the only thing to note is that it's made by one guy.
Yeah. Oh, am I the only one that when we initially saw it, like when that trailer was starting to hit, I was like, "Holy shit! Are they getting a Crisis like spin-off or sequel into Xbox?" Like, because that's what it felt like. That's what the engine looked like. That's what like the feeling of the rain on like the HUD and everything kind of felt like that.
Definitely.
And I was like, oh my god, is this a Crisis game? And then it got to the end, and I was like, yeah, this is not a Crisis game. But holy crap, that was impressive.
One dude. That's awesome.
That's awesome. And he's gonna rake money, by the way, if this is successful.
He's already. I mean, it's already on Steam. He's already raking money.
Call of the Sea, first-person puzzle game set in the 30s. Explore a mysterious island with fish people.
Yeah, at one point it looks like you're swimming with like webbed hands.
Yeah.
It's got a very like Firewatch, like Super Giant Games, which are like Bastion, Transistor, like that sort of like drawn
aesthetic.
What's
the one? It's like, what else? Journey What's that other one? What's
Sure.
that other one where you're trapped on an island and you have to solve the puzzles? You know what I'm talking. You know which game I'm talking about. It kind of has that look to it. But yeah, I think this definitely hits a niche market too.
Yeah. Next we have maybe the one I got most excited about, which is Chorvs. Chorus is what it's actually called, but they spell it with a V.
Single player sci-fi spaceship shooter with some fantasy-ish touches out in 2020.
Yeah, so we don't know for sure, but to me in that trailer it definitely looked like there's some sort of, I don't know if it's telepathic or empathic, but like the ship and the girl that pilots it seem to have some sort of connection.
Yeah. It felt like a very like space version of like Knight Rider.
Sure.
You know what I'm
But like more so, it's not even like just that they're like friends. It's that like there's a deep sort of mystical connection going on.
Yeah. I do wonder like how this game plays out, like gameplay wise. Like is this what's that big space game that everyone's been waiting on for like 15 years?
Oh.
It starts with it starts with an S?
Yeah.
Star something.
Regardless.
Yeah. Like is it going to be like that where it's like it's you, your ship in this vast universe and it's like fully fleshed out where you can like exit the ship, call your ship down, like get on your ship, like get into space dogfights, explore, and go on quests throughout the galaxy or however big expansive this world is. But if they can nail that, like that'd be awesome.
I actually don't think it'll be like that. My guess is that it's all piloting the ship, but it seems like it's actually pretty story heavy.
Yeah. So you're thinking like an Ace of Combat in the space,
or like Star Fox.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
But the reason I'm so interested is because it's mashing up the sci-fi like deep space genre and the fantasy genre, because you're in a spaceship, but you're also sort of mystically teleporting. There are portals opening up that aren't black holes. They're definitely something more magical looking. Yeah. I'm interested to see more.
Yeah, I mean that's not a genre crossover that you see often.
No, that's why I'm intrigued.
Definitely.
Up next is your racing game.
I mean, I expected Forza, but it was actually Dirt 5. So, but yeah, racing game nonetheless.
It sure is a racing game.
And then we got Madden 21 with
it sure is a Madden
Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes announcing the game, and then we got like a little bit of game. I actually think we did get a little bit of gameplay. It was just like, or shown in engine. It just wasn't real gameplay.
I wonder how many people who only follow video games and not sports reacted to hearing Patrick Mahomes' voice for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, and I wonder if you showed someone the Madden 20 trailer, like this type of trailer, and then this Madden 21 trailer, if anyone could tell the difference.
Doubt it. Really, the only thing that I wanted to talk about this is that afterwards, after the showcase, it came out that Madden wouldn't be supporting smart delivery, but EA would be doing its own, basically same thing, just with more rules. There's like a window that you have to buy and play the games within to qualify, because that's EA.
Yeah, I mean, it's either going to be based on the time that you bought the game or the time that you bought the console, right? So like, you know, let's say you bought Madden 21 on the Xbox One, and you bought the X, and then you were playing it, and then you bought an Xbox Series X. Then within like the first 30 days of you buying the Xbox One Series X, if you like register the game, then you can get it. But if you don't,
it's so extremely EA to look at like this cool consumer friendly thing that Xbox is doing and be like, but what if we could make more money and be more difficult?
Yeah, I wonder if it won't. I do wonder if it'll even be free. Like I do wonder if it's just like it's a $4.99 upgrade.
Like it's free, but you got to jump through some hoops.
Like if you don't get it done within like the first 30 days, then you have to pay for it. Like,
Right.
it's that type of thing.
So it goes. Scarlet Nexus,
Yeah, this one was weird.
the anime game.
This one was weird for me.
I tweeted it out. It looked like Astral Chain, but with plants.
It's not even. It's made by. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's not Platinum.
I believe it's Capcom.
Scarlet Nexus. I'm looking it
Yeah.
up. Bandai Namco.
Bandai Namco. That's where it was. Yeah. So
Oh, I bet it's by. You know who I bet is doing it is the God Eater team.
that actually makes sense because gameplay wise, it's going to be pretty similar if you go that route. That Platinum games like Nier, what's it, and Astral Chain, like that type of mold. Yeah, then the God Eater game definitely was in that frame too.
Yeah, I bet they're working on it.
Okay, I mean, color me intrigued, but not something like I'm interested in like getting.
It seems like it'll be a fine hack and slash kind of thing.
Perfectly fine. Every console needs that. And then we got like some horror game, right? We got Scorn.
Yeah, which we just got a trailer that was so extremely alien, and when I say alien, I mean like the movie.
It's
to the point where I thought it was a game in that.
It felt
universe.
like the end of Prometheus, right?
Right.
Like,
so that aesthetic is made by H.R. Geiger, who has been working with the Alien franchise since the beginning, and he sort of developed this look. And man, did they pay homage to it.
Yeah, it's like it's such a weird, like, it's like a horror / alien / like very like dark satanistic type of like look.
Yes.
And my God, I was just like, yeah, I get why people are like gonna want to play this game. It's so not for me.
I don't even know what kind of game it is.
Yeah, I don't.
All we saw was just that it's gonna be that look,
which I'm okay not playing.
We'll see. I'm not super interested, but they got time.
Yeah, they do.
Up next is Second Extinction, which is basically Turok plus Left 4 Dead.
Basically, it's like
which is what a combo.
Yeah, you're basically stranded. I mean, it's like you're stranded on in Jurassic Park with like 3 friends, and you just have dinosaurs coming after you.
Give it to me. I'm ready.
I mean, we got to form our team then. We got to basically get our Halo Reach team back. Like that's
squad
the
up.
Yeah.
After that is The Ascent, which is a very stylish looking top-down shooter RPG set in like a extremely, speaking of Dread, really reminded me of the Dread sort of block buildings that you're sort of escalating.
Yeah, super with a lot of like neon lights. Always a good look. Always a good look on a video game with those types of lighting effects. If you can nail it, it just without fail always looks good.
We stand. The Medium.
Yeah, I'm not for this, man. Holy crap!
So you're Rob, not a horror game guy,
dude. I cannot watch horror movies or like play horror games.
This one is definitely a spooker. They even said it's a psychological horror game, which probably is even worse for you.
God.
It's from Blooper Team, which recently did Blair Witch, which I heard mixed reviews about, but I feel like they were sort of working with a stacked deck because that sort of story has been tapped too many times.
The trailer was like super scary. Like it had like that woman who was like pregnant, and then like towards the end of it, like she like put her hand on her like stomach, and then like she like looked at her hands and it was like bloody, and then she like.
So that is your character, who is apparently a medium shocker who is caught between the real and spirit worlds, which is what you were seeing in the trailer, where she sort of goes back and forth between a normal looking place and then a sort of wasteland looking zone.
Yeah, I am so good with not having to play this game.
I'm gonna find a way to get you to play it.
God, no, please. I mean, I played Fear on the PC like way back when, and there's a moment. There's a moment. There's a moment in there where you like look in a mirror, and then like you hear something on your headphones, and you turn around, and then there's nothing there, and then you turn back to the mirror, and there's a ghost. Like there's like a ghost in the mirror, and that freaked the freaking hell out of me.
We gotta find a way to get you to play PT.
Oh God, no. I mean, see, I can play games that are like beyond the realm of possibility, and for me, in my case, it's like Resident Evil, right? Like a zombie like house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like there's like jump scare moments, but it's not in the realm of possibility for me. But like a lot of these like games that are very simulator feeling, like the newest Resident Evil game, right? Where you're trapped in the house, like that type, with like ghosts and oh God, it's just the lingering thing that gets me. But yeah,
we're gonna find a way.
Please don't.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
What?
I don't know if you played the first one.
What a title, by the way.
Oh, it's the most. Like, we have a colon, we have a dash, we have a number. It's all there.
I did not play the first game, but what I will say is this: the trailer had me intrigued.
So, the trailer made me really happy because the first game is a big cult classic, but I loved the first game. Imagine a sort of Fallout style universe where there's a huge world, there's factions that have relationships with each other, they like some, they work with some, they hate some, and you sort of get to pick where you go.
Yeah, you got to navigate the world basically, right?
I think the best way that I can describe how cool and well thought out this is that like the factions that you can join are all like different vampire covens.
Okay.
And one of them that you can join, they're clans. They call them clans. Which I think they've said all the ones from the first game are coming back. So like you have clan like Nosferatu, you have like all the different things, and different clans have different powers. Like the Nosferatu one, you are more of a traditional vampire. But one of them is clan Malkavian, which is named after John Malkovich, and you basically are a nut. You have voices that speak to you in your head. You act like John Malkovich all the time, going nuts.
Great.
But what's cool about it is sometimes the voices actually have like insight into what's going on that you would never normally know.
So they're like like they'll have moments of like omniscience.
Right.
Okay.
Like that's why this clan is a thing, because like, yeah, they're nuts and they're basically almost insane all the time. They're very unhinged, but they sort of have an insight into things that no one else does.
Okay. Color me intrigued. I don't know what the gameplay looks like, but from that trailer alone, it definitely showcased that, like how there's different types of vampires, and how they interact with the world and your like decision making and stuff. Color me interested.
This was a big one. Yeah. Yakuza, Like a Dragon.
I had very I'm thinking I'm not the only one, but very King Arthur feels in this. Because there's that moment where he like pulls the thing out of the ground and he like gets super powered, and then he goes into like a super.
If you haven't seen clips of the attacks from this game, do yourself a favor and go look some up because they're incredible.
I mean, the Yakuza games definitely over the years have gotten more and more extravagant in their like set piece fightings and like their super moves.
Well, the conceit of this one is that in the previous games they were brawlers. Yeah. This is an RPG because it's a new character. Kiryu's not the main character anymore, and your new guy grew up a huge Dragon Quest nerd.
Yeah, so
he fights like he's in Dragon Quest.
Which is awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so for like diving into games like this. Like gangster games are just, they have a special place in my heart.
Yakuza, the whole series is incredible.
Super, super, super fun game that you can just play for hours.
And that's it, man. That's all of them.
See, it feels like a lot, but there wasn't really a lot of like substance.
No huge names really, and basically no gameplay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think Yakuza might be the only game that actually had real gameplay.
And it's cheating because that game's already out on the PS4 in Japan.
So, yeah,
a little disappointing. And speaking of disappointment, let's move on to round 2.
Let's do it.
Round 2.
Oh boy, esports had a rough week.
Sheesh, dude. Absolutely, just like take a breath, man. Like, I think
specifically, Overwatch League had a real bad week.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 has already been not a great year, and it kind of felt like they just wanted to get to the top of the news cycle by doing this.
And they sure did it.
I mean, they did it, but I still don't think you're going to be able to top the coronavirus yet. So, sorry, try again, but still pretty crazy news.
So the context of what we're talking about is the Vancouver Titans, last year's runner-up in the Overwatch League behind the San Francisco Shock, basically nuked the team. They parted ways with nearly every member of the roster, including some of the players that are considered the most talented players like in the league, some of the players that have been like cornerstones of the Overwatch community since the drop.
Yep.
It sort of all happened at once, and people were wondering what was going on. The team said it was basically things broke down because of the pandemic, and they couldn't keep everything together, and it just sort of collapsed. Since this has come out, we've heard rumblings of deeper issues. I'll just read from this article from Kotaku. Speaking to Kotaku, another condition of anonymity, two sources with knowledge of players' interactions with the Vancouver Titans and their owners, Canucks Sports and Entertainment, said that the player roster's departure was the culmination of a large pattern of mismanagement. Even before the pandemic, the sources said, players were not satisfied with the Season 3 accommodations, which were akin to small hotel rooms with concrete walls and little else, as opposed to the state-of-the-art facility the Titans organization described in an earlier post, and far nicer housing provided during the previous season. The team's core roster was dissatisfied with their contracts, and the organization neglected to negotiate in a significant way despite an excellent Season 2 performance, preferring instead to spend a disproportionate amount of money on two big-name players. Timely payment in general was an issue, though it got better over time. Still, one source said the players were planning to strike and refuse to play even before the pandemic hit. Then, according to both sources, when it did hit, players were forced to find their own housing back in Korea instead of having it provided by the organization as promised. This, said one source, is in stark contrast to how other teams have been handling the situation.
I mean, the entire roster is Korean, or was Korean.
Yeah. So we should actually provide a little bit more backup. The Vancouver Titans they were at one point, basically a wholesale transfer of a Overwatch contenders team called Runaways, which was just an incredible story. They were all unsigned, unsponsored players that were scouted personally by this one guy. It's a long, really cool story that if you're interested, you should look up. But they became the Vancouver Titans and sort of took the Overwatch League by storm. And
because
they were too good for this.
Yeah, because the Titans were also an expansion team going into Season 2. Like, they weren't one of the original teams that were formed for the inauguration season. So, yeah, I mean, let me read the quote that you had written here. Many teams were required to make spur of the moment decisions this year when it came to accommodating their players amid the pandemic, the source told Kotaku. Chinese Overwatch teams had to move to Korea temporarily. The lengths those organizations went to make sure their players had their most Ideal situations possible, even if they weren't perfect, living in Korea were massive. Vancouver did nothing to try and accommodate the players when they returned home.
Come on, guys.
Oh my god. Like on one hand,
We know you got the money. It costs like $12 million
exactly.
to buy into the league. We know you can fund it.
Like some of the other stuff, like when they talked about how like how they didn't under or they I'm gonna butcher the quote, so I'm gonna say you have to go read it. But basically, one of the quotes saying like, "Hey, we didn't realize it was gonna take this much like time and effort to get to know these guys like on a personal level, and that they were actually human beings. Like that whole aspect of they don't really speak our English that well, like they know Korean, and that's how they communicate. So I don't think they ran it as a business and more of like how sports teams work than an actual like
There's a later quote in the article that even says they treated it like something you only had to invest time in at the beginning of the season, and the team would operate itself.
right. So so basically they were just like, yeah, you can self regulate, which teams don't work like that. And I mean, it's the Canucks Sports and Entertainment, like that's the thing, that's their company name, like the
As in, like
Vancouver
the
Canucks.
NHL Canucks.
Exactly.
It's the same ownership group.
So it's baffling to me that they like just disregarded the team like this, and they have a very very bad PR storm on their hands.
Like, how are you gonna invest that much money into something and then just forget about it?
Man, like all these Korean kids that just had to like move back home, and like I do wonder like how they even played games. Like were they told like this is like the like you just show up to this place to play a match? Like where do you even practice? Like it's weird from a team perspective that you would negate or neglect it this badly.
That's what I keep coming back to. And it's like I said, like, how are you gonna make such a substantial investment and then not nourish it?
Like the renegotiating of pay, sure, that could be left to like the end of the season, right? You didn't need to do that mid-season. Like some of this stuff I could like pass it off as like, okay, it's part of the sports, quote unquote, sports business. But like you sent your entire roster back to their home country and like zero communication, or wouldn't you, like as you said, wouldn't you want to invest so that they stay in the same place together so that they can practice and be at peak like form to be able to perform on game days? But no, you just like leave it to be. And I kind of do think that their mentality was they're going back home to their home country, like they're going to have a place to stay and live. But they don't realize
Right.
it's a freaking country. Like it's not, they're not all from the same city, right?
Mhm.
And so how are they getting back together to play games? Like where are they meeting? Like, public places are all shut down in Korea too, so you can't really go out to like a PC room and get together and play. That costs money too, and you're expecting these guys to fund that themselves. Like it seems like they were just like they'll find, these gamers will find a way to play.
Well, it seems like increasingly they will find a way to play Valorant.
I mean, that is the thing that's on the up and up.
They the Overwatch League also, not only did they lose an entire team, but they also lost one of their most popular players, Corey, player for Toronto, and one of the sort of stars of Team USA in the Overwatch World Cup, announced that he would be retiring, following in Sinatra's footsteps, and going for Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, his quote here is like, when I was younger, I had the ambition to go pro in Counter-Strike, seeing Valorant as a hybrid between CS and OW. This looks like the game that was made for me. I'll be pursuing all opportunities available to me, and we'll start up hitting the grind.
That's what's wild to me is Sinatra at least like left because he had a deal and play somewhere else. Corey is like, no, I just don't want to play Overwatch anymore.
Yeah,
man.
I'm just gonna go from the bottom all the way to the top in another game now. I mean, I'm sure someone's gonna pick him up.
The issue that Overwatch has with burnout continues.
Yeah. It's not fresh anymore.
But I doubt it's getting fresher anytime soon.
Even though they just added a new character.
You didn't get that from me. But we got to move on because I need to spend a little bit of time talking about this absolutely bonkers IndyCar story.
Yes.
I will be quick because this is super niche, but it's so interesting. You need to go read this article on Vice about it because it's incredible.
I actually know I watch F1. Like I'm a big F1 guy, so I know the F1 side of this, but I actually don't know what the IndyCar side of this is.
So, as with everything, all of these racing leagues are not happening right now. And they have all transitioned to online racing because it should not be a surprise. A lot of these drivers, in their off time, get really into driving sims. So this was sort of an easy transition. Over the last weekend, there was a big race that was going super well. I'm really paraphrasing all of these details. They were down to the last couple of laps, and one racer made a mistake that cost him a chance at winning, and he basically raged and threw and took as many of the current leaders out as he could.
Oh, man.
Which has had an incredible amount of fallout because not only did he ruin the race that they were taking so seriously, they had the full NBC announcing cast on. They had like a fireman barbershop quartet sing the national anthem before the race.
Oh boy.
And he just totally ruined it. He may have ruined the whole rest of the season because now it's abundantly obvious that people are playing a video game. They're not taking this seriously. Even if everyone else promises to mind their behavior for the rest of the time that they're doing this, forever in the back of everyone's mind will be like, okay, but what if somebody just like does this because they rage again? And then it gets even deeper than that because part of the thing about being a race car driver is that you are risking your life. You are driving 250 miles an hour inches away from someone else going the exact same speed. There has to be a level of mutual trust that none of your competition wants to die. And yes, it was a video game, but this was an action that was done almost instinctively. It was a reaction. And if that's something that this person is capable of, maybe not the severe, but they could also have a negative reaction in real life on the real racetrack.
Right. I think the big caveat here that I think people have to understand is that it's not the fact that they're willing to put themselves in danger just to harm someone else. It's that what if they find that middle ground for themselves of I'm not winning this race and I'm not going to harm myself, but I don't want you to. Yeah, and that's exactly that's that thing that's going to linger in a lot of the other racers in a real race, right? Like, how do you not think about that?
And apparently this guy has a history of being sort of a dick.
Perfect.
So yeah, I mean, you see him in your rearview mirror. How do you not get like a shiver?
Yeah, not start second guessing yourself and
It's wild. This whole thing is wild. If you're interested, seriously, go read this piece. It's incredible.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I mean, like,
what a world.
Yeah. I mean, like Lewis Hamilton, who's the current F1 champion, was like talking about, the sim stuff. But one of the things he said was like, because they were asking him, like, what if F1 comes back with no fans? And he's like, it's not going to be the same with no fans, but it's still better than nothing. And it gives something the fans to watch and something for him to do. Right. So like, I think that's the crux of where we want to get to, at least that next, like, little baby step. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But things like this just, it just rears its ugly head and just deters like some of the progress that we've made into that. And it brings up more. It actually is kind of nice in a weird way too, because it forces us to talk about these issues that may not have ever shown up just if the season or like life was just normal as well.
Right.
Pros and cons.
It's crazy,
Pros and
man.
Cons.
There's pros, there's cons, and then there's Joy-Cons.
Oh, I like that pivot. That's like Hakeem Olajuwon footwork pivoting. Like that's incredible.
We're moving on to round 3.
Round
Which
3.
is all about Nintendo. They posted their fiscal year report,
God.
and oh boy, Nintendo made some money.
Yeah, if you're an investor in Nintendo, like I don't like what is it? Are you jumping for joy, or is this something that you expected? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're sitting there, like, did you see this coming, or was this even bigger than what you expected?
I think even with how successful they've been, I mean, when you look at Nintendo's last fiscal year, they didn't have the sort of release pizzazz that they've had in other years. Like there's no Breath of the Wild, there's no art. Their big games were Pokemon and Animal Crossing. But both of those ended up being smash hits. Animal Crossing is like an unprecedented smash. Like we are still counting Animal Crossing.
Absolutely.
But let's dive into some of these numbers. Overall, Nintendo hardware sales were up 24% year over year. Software almost doubled. Software sales.
This is a 24% increase with the added fact that you haven't been able to purchase hardware for the last month, you'd say?
Right.
So
they increased hardware sales by 24% during a hardware shortage.
Sheesh.
But yet the software sales are really what stands out to me. They almost doubled their sales, and it's on the back of Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing specifically, Animal Crossing New Horizons has already sold like a multitude more. Like it's not double, it's not triple, it's more than that, more than any other Animal Crossing has in its entire lifetime. In the first 6 weeks of being out.
Yeah, so this is just like I guess my business side brain working. Like if I'm an investor sitting in that meeting, like am I more upset that we don't have enough systems to get out to people to make more money, or am I content because the current situation that's in the world has allowed us to even sell as many as we have up until this point, right? Like,
right.
If the world wasn't in lockdown with coronavirus, would Animal Crossing have sold as well as it did today? Probably not. Yeah. So I guess you just have to take that in stride, right? And see like which side of the argument you're on. But I mean, either way, if you're an investor, you made a crap ton of money.
Yeah. Animal Crossing has already jumped into the top selling Switch games of all time conversation. That updated list is now Mario Kart 8 at the top, then followed by Smash, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Sword and Shield, Pokemon Let's Go, and then Animal Crossing. And rounding out the list of games that have sold over 10 million units is Splatoon 2 and Mario Party. But I mentioned Splatoon 2 specifically because this now makes Splatoon the second console-exclusive shooter to ever sell over 10 million units. The only other console-exclusive shooter to sell over 10 million is Halo 3. It's the only one.
Drop the mic. Yeah, and I mean, look, Animal Crossing sitting at 11.77 million. If it wants to jump into the top 3, it would need to sell about between 6, let's just say 6.5 million units.
We should also note that like that number for Animal Crossing 11.77 is mostly still just digital.
Right. right? So let's say we had like a 2 million extra in physical sales. If there wasn't a hardware storage or shortage and like a actual like to go out and get the gaming cartridge, like let's say at a Best Buy or your local gaming store, like this number I think would be significantly higher right now.
I don't think we can even fathom what the actual Animal Crossing number is right now.
Yep, I totally agree.
It is insane. But the news isn't all good for Nintendo. They posted a statement on the risks of COVID-19 to their business. They said that hardware production is gradually recovering, but the risk of disruption to supply chain, if the situation prolongs, is real. Consumption via physical channels is going to be impacted. R&D and software development may also be impacted if things don't improve soon. So they're okay for now, but they're right on the edge.
Yeah. So basically they're saying we're at the threshold now. Like if the situation gets,
they're already forecasting a 17% decline in software sales next year.
Which
in part is because they had such a huge year this year.
And it's you can't maintain that.
But especially not if they're going to have shortages.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a note from Daniel Ahmad, who's a senior analyst at Nyko Partners, who covers the Asian games market, who said that, for what it's worth, I've already seen and heard that some Nintendo first-party games have been delayed internally, or that there is uncertainty on release dates due to the challenges from COVID-19 and switch to work from home.
Yeah.
So that means basically anything that we don't have a firm date on. We're talking Metroid Prime. We're talking Bayonetta 3. I wouldn't expect that anytime
Breath
soon.
of the Wild 2. All of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's to be expected, right? And Japan's definitely had some issues of containing COVID-19 and they're just that entire situation. So I can only imagine that it slowly starts to affect it. And
luckily for Nintendo, they have an absurd amount of money in the bank. They I think the number was that like Nintendo could lose money until like 2045 and not go into the red.
Yeah, I think what people just need to realize is that we might get these games delayed, but Nintendo as a company and all those like subsidiaries that they own, they're not going under. Like, just from like a 6 to 8 month delay.
Nintendo basically they've never invested any of their profits. They just put it in the bank.
So yeah, they're definitely going to be just perfectly fine. It's just we just won't get games from first party stuff that they put out for a while. That's
right,
which is fine.
We'll live.
We'll survive.
But I think that's going to do it for round 3. We made it, man. And now we're going to have a new segment because we have some listener questions this week.
Fun times. Always fun when we get listener questions, mostly from our friends today, but still good nonetheless.
Hey, man. Humble beginnings.
We started from the bottom, now we're here.
I think this one is going to have to go to you because you are the Valkyria Chronicles player. We have a question from Piotr, our good friend. Why is Valkyria Chronicles 4 so frustrating? Any tips for a new player to the franchise? Also, why is Kai best girl? Kai, is that how you say that?
She's the sniper on the main roster. I think she's definitely the best girl in the main character tropes. She's the one that plays coy and is like the tomboy of the group. So yeah, I think she is. Why is VC so frustrating? And any new tips for a player to the franchise? I think this is gonna sound so general, but I think the best thing is you just gotta take your time through it. You have to replay a few of the missions because you're not thinking how their AI is gonna react. You think they're gonna react one way, but they actually react another way. And I think the biggest tip I would say is, or the one that I guess that's frustrating is, you're not really gonna be able to know how to place your soldiers and your soldier types or who to take into battle until you play it, unless you fail, then you play it the second time,
sort of trial by ear.
Yeah, but the bigger thing is as you go towards the mid and towards the end game, the biggest thing is having your characters like your main like guys, at least having one main type of guy for each like character class that that is your like go to, along with, because this game has a little bit of what Persona 5 does in Confidants, where when you have certain guys have certain attributes, and they're like this guy or this girl like fights better when she's like within a 50 meter radius of like another guy or another girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to play those advantages very well and start like pairing guys up and figuring out that this is like a good tactic for like when I have to take out a tank. This is a good tactic to like figure out when I have to take out like a sniper enemy, because
Mhm.
each unit class also has a different amount of movement ability, just like a tactics game. So yeah, I think you just have to take it slow and take it piece by piece. And ultimately, I mean, the game's fun. The cell shading, like artwork and everything, is just so much fun to play with. So I think you'll have fun. It's just they made the game like gaming wise a little difficult, which I don't mind it being a little difficult. So
There you go. And then we also have a question from the homie Josh about the rumors swirling that there is a new Tony Hawk Pro Skater coming.
do you want?
Do you buy it?
Do we want to talk about the rumor that he's referring to first before we talk about it, or?
I mean, I think it's basically confirmed at this point. Professional skateboarder Jason Dill went on a podcast and basically said that he's in the game.
So yeah, I'm still gonna be very very critical and like just be like I'm not gonna believe it until I see it. Like he could say he's in a
Sure.
new like in a new game, but like it could be that Tony Hawk is being consulted on a skate game, but like and he's in it, but it's not Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's just like another game, but man, if it brings back, if it like stays true to like its roots of like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and it brings back like that feel, man, it's gonna hit so close to home and be such a game that I want to like have on the go at all times. Like geez, how many hours did I pour into the Game Boy Advance version of that? Like how many hours did I carry that thing around playing that game? Like what about for you? Like is this a game that like hits home for you?
I definitely played the hell out of the original ones. I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm as interested as maybe everybody else is, just because at this point, like with how much more video games have to do, like I don't know how interested I would be in the long run in just skating around. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It purely has to feel like how it comes back. Like if it does come back and it has that like timer mode where you like just trying to pull off as many tricks, like I could easily see it being one of those games where like on a commute, like you dip in, like go on one run to see like if you can max your score out, and then
For
dip
sure.
back out. But yeah, if they bring back, if they like somehow add multiplayer aspect to it where you can like skate around with friends at a park and like watch people do tricks and you can like create your own tricks or whatnot, like holy crap, like yes, put me down, put my name on the paper. I want that demo and I want to be on that pre-order sheet.
Go get it. Go get it. But that's all we got, man.
Is that it? That's it for us?
We did it.
Got through it. Kind of a long one, but still did it.
If you're still with us, we appreciate you. We thank you, and we implore you to follow us on all of our socials, mine being at Jack Peglow, Friendly's being at Friendly'sPod. Rob, where they find you
11 HWANG.
And keep listening in, because we're only getting better, baby.
By the week. By the week.
But for Rob, for me, for everybody at home, thank you so very much for tuning in.